3 months ago, we began this podcast. 3 weeks ago, we went to the theaters to watch the Superman movie. 3 days ago, we decided that, yeah, why not? Let's record our discussion and our review of the movie. 3 minutes ago, we came online. And 3 seconds ago, I said the word three. Welcome to the Three Body Narrative. We are your hosts, Pradyum, Aaron, and Naeem, and we are here to talk to you everything pop culture, films, TV shows, games, you name it. And today's episode, we're going to be reviewing Superman, DC's latest entry to the superhero franchise movie, or movie franchise. Oops. So, what is Superman all about? Well, based on the DC comics, we, I suppose, enter this movie in the midst of Superman's journey. Well, he's 3 years into his journey, and he faces his toughest test yet. When he gets drawn into a conflict at home, well, technically abroad, his actions are questioned, giving tech billionaire Lex Luthor the perfect opportunity to get the Man of Steel out of the way for good. But will the love of his life and reporter Lois Lane and his cute little four-legged companion Crypto be able to help him out before it gets too late? All right, guys. So before we give our ratings for the movie, I just wanted to ask you, given that this is a whole new, we're entering a whole new era of the DC universe yet again, how excited were you when this project was announced? Naeem, let's start with you since you are the biggest comic book fan amongst the three of us.
Um, so you guys know where I stand with the prequel series, or not prequel series, but the Snyder series of Justice League and DC superheroes, etc. I'm not a big fan whatsoever, and I really do not like what was done, except perhaps maybe Man of Steel was like a decent start to the series at the time. I haven't watched that in a really long time, so I don't know if it would stand the test of time. Nonetheless, like when James Gunn was announced to kind of oversee the project and like basically take command or reign of this entire DC Studios. So the initial bit I was very much excited because I knew that um, James Gunn had obviously worked on several Marvel projects, and he had done
Yeah,
a decent job with them. And he's also known to be a comic book fan himself. Uh, and the most critical bit was the fact that I think he knew exactly what went wrong with the previous iterations. And I think he wanted to put that right by kind of focusing on the comic book source material for at least the foreseeable projects. So all of that said and done, quite excited with the turn they were taking and the move that was happening across the board in DC Studios. Um, However, when the first trailer of Superman came out, and we did the review of that, or we
reaction
actually
and review. Yeah,
of the trailer as well. I particularly, I wouldn't say I was disappointed with it or anything, but I was quite nervous with the sheer number of things happening in that trailer, and I
yeah.
was worried that it might be an overkill and we may again have to do a reboot of a reboot if things really don't pan out. So yeah, initial excitement, but the first trailer, I think it kind of toned down or like really um, made sure that I wasn't too overly excited about this film or looking forward to it. To be honest, I was more skeptical about it, if anything.
Okay, fair. Aaron?
I think I wasn't overly excited to begin with. Uh, And then the trailer kind of got me even more skeptical just because of, like Naeem said, there was so much going on, and at least without knowing the entire plot of the movie, it kind of you didn't have perspective as to how it was going to be spaced out or how the whole picture would come to fruition. But yeah, it was interesting. One thing we knew was that the soundtracks would be good, so that was good. That was something to look forward to. But yeah, I wasn't overly excited uh, with the initial announcement of the movie, to be honest.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I mean, you know my feelings on the Zack Snyder universe. I was a massive fan. I loved it so much. I thought like it was a great injustice. I can't even get through it. I can't really get through it. No, obviously, no, that was dog shit. Okay. No, I obviously had my apprehensions coming into this new era because obviously we were promised the same thing with Zack Snyder, and yeah, you're right. I think with Man of Steel, we had some sort of hope, which is, I mean, apt given that it started with Superman. So some sort of hope with that, which eventually, died down quite quickly. And I think to add to that, I'm not, or rather, I wasn't a huge fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. I just thought they were all right movies. I didn't really care for much of them, and they were all directed by James Gunn, right? So when this was announced that he was going to helm the entire thing, I was a little skeptical. Kind of won me over with Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad, which then sort of maybe felt or made me feel like it would probably work out. Then yes, the trailer released, we did the reaction, and while I my first experience of the Superman trailer was the soundtrack that they released initially, I was really hyped up. But when you watched everything that unfolded in the trailer, there was just so much that I felt very apprehensive. I was like, oh, this is going to be the sort of thing where you have this crazy ensemble cast and you're trying to do everyone justice, and in the end, you don't do anyone justice, right? And so I thought, if you're going to do a Superman movie, why don't you just have it be Superman? Why are you introducing so many important characters like the Justice Gang and all of those guys, right? Um, and to have Lex as the main villain straight off the bat was intriguing as well. It's a big villain to start off with. So all in all, yeah, I my expectations going into the theater to watch this movie was quite low. I didn't want to be disappointed, and for that reason, I kept my expectations very low. And which brings me on to what my ratings for the movie was. And I'm glad, I suppose, that I kept my expectations low because it helped me enjoy the movie a lot more. And for that, I'd give Superman a 3.5 out of 5. I really thought it was a good start to the DC live action movie franchise because obviously you had Creature Commandos, which was the animated start, right? Which was the start of DCU, but through animation, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Recommend it to anyone watching it, anyone to watch it. But this movie going in, I had more things that I liked than I disliked. I love the cast overall. I think each one acted perfectly or did their roles justice. I David Cornsweet or Corns yeah, it's Sweat, right? I think so. But yeah, whoever the guy who played Superman, I'd seen him once in, I think it was The Campaign. It's a Netflix show. And the moment I saw him, I was like, this guy needs to play Superman. Right. And I was very glad that he got cast. And I think he did a fantastic job given the feel of the movie. I like the comic book feel and nature of the entire movie. It didn't feel very dark. It didn't feel gritty. It didn't feel like what we were used to in the DC universe. And given the character Superman itself, I it was quite thoroughly enjoyable. I love the chemistry between Superman and Lois, which we'll come to later. I really liked Lex. Now I know the bar was set really low for how Lex, the character of Lex, given what Jesse Eisenberg played in Batman v Superman, but I really loved Nicholas Holt in this. I love the teenage angst almost that he played it with. It felt very personal, it felt very rich, and I didn't feel like, I know there were a lot of characters, but I didn't feel like they took away much from the main plot, which is about Superman. So all in all, an enjoyable movie. I did go back and watch Man of Steel after I watched Superman, just to kind of see where where it actually would stack up. And I like Man of Steel, but you were asking, does it stand the test of time? For me, it doesn't. I felt like there were more things I would have changed in the Man of Steel than I would have in Superman. The only thing I think I should hint upon, the one thing that I did dislike was the exposition. There was a lot of exposition right at the start, and perhaps that's meant for the non-comic book fans, but still, to have someone say that, oh, Lex knows exactly how Superman moves or fights because he's worked out some 2500 moves and he's done this time and time and again, it just felt a bit too much. And there were points like this throughout where I was like, I mean, you can see it, it's not like I need to know. Any smart audience member would kind of figure it out. So that's my take on this. Okay, who's going next? I think Naeem, is it your turn?
Yeah. So it's a solid 3.5 for me. More positive than negative. Obviously, like I guess, like you mentioned, not having too much expectations from the movie really helps it. Also important to realize that this is the start of a whole new DC universe, and for that matter, there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done, but in such a way that feels fresh, I suppose. And that's what I thought the movie did really well, in the sense that it didn't have to be an origin story all over again. You didn't have to start from scratch. Some things were like, it was like, didn't have to be mentioned per se, but you kind of understood from previous instances you might have like come across through comic book movies, or through watching through comic books in itself, or through watching the earlier movies. You would have an idea of what the origin story of Superman is like. So basically getting into um, the thick of things without actually spending too much time on everything that you've seen before on screen. And that really helps the movie move things along in a brisk pace, which I think is really important for the movie, because the moment you slow things down, I think it gets boring and you kind of lose interest. So it was really good from the pacing perspective. I think they really did well in terms of ensuring they didn't spend any time where it felt like, I don't think this scene was necessary, like, or it's like moving really slow, or doesn't add anything to the movie in itself. Um, Performances were brilliant. Yeah, so I hadn't watched David in anything prior to this, so I was really happy with his performance as Superman. Like, I can really see him being the reflective, what do you say, live action version of the comic book Superman that I've seen, or the animated version in the early 90s, or early 2000s, that you've basically seen in the animated versions. So yeah, really good casting, I would say. For me, the most important bit was, it they kept it very simple, even though the trailer made it seem like there's too much happening. The
Yeah.
story in itself was very simple, and it was about, for me, in a lot of ways, about two people, one being Superman and one being Lex Luthor, and their um, chemistry, in a certain way. It's like, it's very weird in the way that's kind of shaped, but to see the jealousy that's already there, set in with Lex when it comes to Superman, and what he wants to achieve within the world, but in context of having Superman as a competitor for some reason. All of that really kind of came together well in this movie, and I love the fact that it's so personal about your pet in like your pet is kind of kidnapped by the villain, and this main story revolves around that, and like what how far you're willing to go to kind of get what you think is right. uh
Actually,
you
yeah,
know
you're right. I mean, that's the synopsis, right? It's essentially you're rescuing your puppy.
yeah, pretty much.
That's the main thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think it really helps not having too much expectations from this movie. So, if you go in with with this thing of, okay, this is like, oh my God, this is start of DC universe, and this is like James Gunn, and you've got like way too much expectations, probably you might not be too happy when you walk out from this. But if you go with this thing of, like, let's just give it a chance, let's see where this goes, kind of a thing, I think it's a very solid start to the universe. Nothing to brag home about per se.
Mhm.
Like, I won't rate it as one of the top 10 movies that I've watched or anything like that, but really
I
like,
mean that we got from your rating. I mean, 3.5 does wouldn't put it right
yeah.
anywhere close to the top 10. Fair, fair. Yes, Aaron.
Aaron.
Mm, I mean, I don't know if not having expectations really helped. I don't think I'd agree with that, but
Okay.
I think uh, if I'm being generous, I'll probably give the movie a 3. Uh, I was very indifferent by it. I mean, there were certain redeeming points in the movie. I think in terms of like some of the characters, like you mentioned, I think Lex was a nice character, and the way it was portrayed was quite cool. Uh, I think even the family aspect of it with the parents from Earth, those were portrayed quite nicely. Yes, it was quite a quirky movie in some sense, where I think there was some nice kind of funny aspects to it. But all in all, I think the movie was an okay one. Would I say that I really enjoyed it? Probably not. It was a movie which uh, I think if you were someone who's like a superhero movie lover or someone who likes watching it, then you'd probably watch it just because you watched the rest. But yeah, I don't think otherwise it's a movie that you would kind of really go out of your way to watch. And it was okay. I don't think it was something I'd honestly recommend to go to the theater to watch it. It was okay.
Huh. Interesting. Now, speaking of going to the theater to watch it, I mean, now that we're done with our ratings, before we get to our discussion, couple of things that I probably want to rant about the theater viewing, right? Before we get to, our discussion. And there are a few reasons as to why I don't like watching movies in theaters in India. Um, and I mean, the first thing is that the censor board was all over the place for this particular movie, right? I don't know about you guys, but there were a couple of scenes in this movie that were cut, and not even professionally cut. It felt like someone went on Final Cut Pro or even iMovie and just said, "Okay, I'm just snipping that out." And the cuts were so jarring; it was unbelievably horrible to watch. And the cuts that I mean, okay, so the scenes that were cut were first, I mean, anything to do with romance between Clark Kent and Lois, right? So it was the first scene when I think Clark Kent is in Lois's house, which, by the way, they don't explain as to how he managed to get in, but he did. So fair enough. And it was, I don't know, it's just that they obviously when they're making out, it's like they cut not the entire making out scene, right? Or the love scene. It's that they cut off three-fourths of it and let you watch the last one-fourth to be like, hey, this is what you kind of missed. And the same thing happened, I think, even in the end, where Superman was carrying Lois Lane, and yeah, it was so jarring. I have no idea why. It just felt like I don't understand the reasoning. If you are going to cut off the entire bit. Why are you leaving part of it?
Absolutely, yeah. I completely agree with that. Like even I don't get like, oh, so this is what's happening, and okay, you see the beginning bit, and suddenly you know what's gonna happen, and then suddenly it's cut off, and you're seeing the last bit of it. It's still happening, and you're still seeing it. So I don't get it. Like if the idea behind it is to not expose the younger generation to that, then you should ideally be cutting off the entire snippet or the entire bit of that scene
Yeah.
rather than
I
keeping
mean, I don't know. I think
like
Oppenheimer was fine in
yeah.
the sense that they did a perfect CGI of when there was nudity, and that's certain. I mean, also questionable, very questionable is that you allow a scene like Oppenheimer where you have Florence Pugh basically naked riding on Cillian Murphy holding the Bhagavad Gita, but you have to delete a scene where it's just a normal couple kissing. Not even there. I'm pretty sure there was nothing extreme happening there, but you cut that off. And I mean, this is a country with one point how many ever billion people. It's not like people don't know what romance is or kissing is. You've obviously got the population which shows that people know what kissing is, romance is, and the next steps are. So it's obviously it was very jarring to watch it, and it was, I mean, quite
I
questionable there.
I don't know about the comparison with Oppenheimer because obviously the age limit set for both movies will be fairly different. Obviously, you have a lot more kids being exposed to Superman. So I understand if that is the
Yeah,
drive cutting some of the scenes off, but I don't think like there is any point where you see them kissing on the ground and then suddenly they're suddenly floating midway and still continuing to kiss, and you have those two scenes, but whatever
yeah,
happened in the middle is just like cut off. So I don't know
yeah.
like what's going wrong in what sense, like what more they have done in that seconds that have passed. But it's like really weird in the way it just makes it very jarring and feels almost unnecessary in the way it's done. It's like
You
you
know,
either try to keep it or you kind of skip it completely.
it feels almost like as though we did Fight Club. It felt like Tyler Durden cut the reel in such a way that there's something very lewd in that in between which they wanted to censor out. But anyway, that being said, so that was my major gripe. The second gripe is that my God, the number of movie timings that were purely 3D. There was nothing in this movie that was of 3D value, right? Not, I didn't feel like crypto flying towards me felt very 3D like, nor did I feel like any fight sequences were very 3D worthy. So the fact that like majority of the screening times were all in 3D or IMAX 3D, it's so frustrating because like putting 3D glasses on top of your regular glasses is like the worst experience you could ever have. And it's a movie which I would have enjoyed 10 times more if I watched it in 2D. And I just felt having that extra visual apparatus was a pain in existence when it wasn't even required.
I don't get this. And this is like a norm that I've come to see with Indian cinemas in like every time I visit India and I have to watch like one of the big movies, I'm worried about is there going 2D session or not? Because it's more often than not, they only have 3D sessions, especially in the first set of like days, like the time when it's released, it's always like 3 to 4 days of just 3D sessions. Like there are no 2D sessions whatsoever, and it's like they're kind of forcing you to watch it. Oh, you want to watch it first or you want to watch it when it's out, you got to watch it in 3D, or you know what, you just have to wait it out kind of a thing. Or I think it's like if they don't see enough people coming in, suddenly they're like, you know what, scrap the 3D shows and bring the 2D shows in or something like that. Like what is the concept behind, if you want to make more money, please just make different experiences when it comes to 2D. Please don't base it on, oh, because it's 3D, you're gonna charge me 100 rupees extra or something. Please, there are other ways of getting money out of us if that's the concept there. Like
I
3D
mean,
in a way helps the
unfortunately,
I
equation.
mean,
the
would you pay then for that additional $100 for that experience?
I mean, if the screen is bigger, why not? Like, there wouldn't be a problem from that perspective. 100 rupees I'm talking about, not dirhams. Like,
Yeah,
expected.
exactly. But that's what I'm saying. So if I give you the option for like a screen that was a couple of meters wider, would you pay $100 more for that?
If those are
Probably
the
not.
only
Then
ones,
you'll,
no, if those are the only ones that are the ones that are showing Superman or say any new movie out, of course we would. I would
yeah.
expect the
But
movie
then
public.
if you have, yeah, but then again, that limits them to the number of screens. This way, all your screens are 3D. You, that many more people are going to be forced to pay the 100 extra, right?
Understood. Like what you're saying is, yeah, but like I mean, I think there are different ways in which, if money is the primary reason why you're doing this,
And it
then
is.
perhaps you can redo your this thing where during premium time shows or slots you charge extra. That's just how it is. New movies you charge. I would
No,
rather
my
pay that
main
100
yeah.
extra, watch it in 2D when it's out new. I don't mind as long as I don't have to freaking put those glasses on. I just don't want that experience.
Hey,
It
you're
doesn't.
better off. You just have the one pair to put. I have one on top of the other, and no, but also it's like I don't get it from a movie standpoint. You've got nothing 3D worthy. Like, why are you
Exactly, it
shooting
doesn't
it
add
in
any
that?
value. Yeah,
It
like
doesn't.
if
Yeah,
the movie is made for a 3D experience, understandable. Like I think that used to be the case with this one, right? What's his name? James Cameron's movies.
avatars.
Avatar. It was like it had to be watched in 3D. It gives a very different experience. All of that stuff.
Yeah,
You watch this
perhaps.
in 3D, you watch this in 2D. It's exactly pretty much the same thing you're saying, except probably when he's flying at you, like Superman, when he on the
Even
screen.
then, I
I
You like.
don't think so because it was not like he was going past the camera. It was the camera was just there in front of him, so it was never like he was flying towards you or there was a
Just
3D
it just
effect to
seems
it.
like he's like a
or for example, like when the hammer of Boravia, whatever, right? The guys, you remember the thing where he saves the girl and there's those poles that are falling. If those are
yeah,
falling like as though it's coming to hit me, I
right.
understand. It didn't. I honestly, I feel like the last good 3D movie that I actually watched was Spy Kids 3D, or like Adventures of Lava Girl and Shark Boy or whatever that stuff is. That they actually made use of the 3D functionality, and I mean, it's just crazy. But all right, that was the other gripe that I had. And I suppose the last one that I had, okay, let's not get into that because that is a very, no, wait, before that, obviously, there's the
You
interval.
had one more.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had the intervals, which I don't get for a 2 hour movie. I just want to watch a movie without having. I think it breaks the narrative at times, and it's often like at weird times where it's suddenly just they cut it off and they're like, "It's oh, you need to go use the washroom." I can use the washroom whenever I want. What do I? I know it gives you that time to do it, but it's obviously
No,
it's a
I don't agree with that. I think it's a good thing to have that break in the middle. Like go to the restroom, you don't miss anything. You don't have to ask
yeah,
anyone
okay.
what.
Yeah, I mean, miss anything, sure, but I just don't like. I think at least for me, the interval part was so jarringly awkward where I think they were building up towards the climax bit and then they cut it and they're like, oh, go to the washroom right now and buy your concessions.
I think they always do it like to leave you with a cliffhanger, but then I think again it's just another way to get people to spend more on snacks, probably.
Yeah, and the snacks aren't even great here. This is the next drive. But yeah, and of course, then the last one, well, I won't get into it because, yeah,
Where do
it's
you live again, Patty?
no, no
Mm.
comment, no comments. But yeah, the last one was the last gripe I have is always it's just unnecessary. I never get why they do it. And yeah.
Moving on.
Moving
Um,
on. Okay, yeah, let's talk about the movie because this is essentially a review of Superman. I I do agree with you. I like the fact that it wasn't an origin story. I like the fact that we were, though as much as I did like Man of Steel seeing what happens in Krypton, I obviously I had differences on how that should have been done, but I'm glad that we still didn't get the same thing where he's sent to Earth and like gets all of that done. I like the fact that we are right in the middle of battle, um, and yeah, overall, I think that is a good thing to have someone already established, a superhero that's already established in that universe, who people know about. And again, we've seen a lot of this whole, you know, origin story again and again, which I'm glad that it didn't happen. Um, but what anything that you guys felt like? I think w- the one thing that I should uh, ask was, in terms of we had a lot of supporting characters in the movie. Like, did you feel like each one got their perfect allotted time? Did you feel anyone was, didn't deserve to be there or took off too much screen time?
I actually enjoyed the side characters in this, especially like I think Eve Teschmacher was a breath of fresh air in terms of what she offered in the film, like the initial perception that is set about her, and at the end, the twist that comes through her uh, is like pretty cool to watch. And also, I think quite fairly surprised about like when you initially see the Justice Gang, which
Hmm.
is basically like the Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, and Mr. Terrific. And like of all those things, I think the most that I was interested about was obviously Green Lantern, because I really like Nathan Fillion, and I wanted to see how he would portray the Guy Gardner's character in this movie, which was done really well. But I was fairly surprised about how taken aback I was with Mr. Terrific's performance. Like I really think, especially in like a couple of scenes, he comes off like really strong as a character that I would want to follow in this universe, and see what what stories are built around him at some point. So yeah, and I also like other characters in the sense that Lois Lane was, for the short time that she was given, uh
Lois?
Lois, yeah, she was like pretty good in terms of the performance that came across, especially that one scene where she's the reporter and she's
Oh,
interviewing.
that scene was so well done.
Was really well done. So
Yeah.
so good, like in terms of putting Superman, or rather Clark, in a very difficult sense, because while she's having that interview with Superman, I think in a lot of ways you see Clark's personality coming through in a more aggressive manner, because he simply does not believe that being portrayed in the right way. He's kind of being shown off as a villain for trying to do something that he firmly believes was the right thing to do. And I think really like all of those scenes really add value to the movie.
Yeah.
And all the interactions in fact with all the side characters that were there, even that little bit of the last bit of
Oh,
uh, conversation, or like the scene that is there with Superman's cousin, who
yes.
popped up out of nowhere. That was also a very interesting one, and I'm quite intrigued to see where that storyline eventually leads, kind
He's
of a thing.
Yeah. Aaron, side characters? Anything
I
that
think
caught
they
your eye?
were uh
Anyone?
caught my eye in the sense I think Green Lantern's character was quite cool. I think though knowing who was playing the character, you kind of knew that there was going to be a lot of I think laughs involved with his character. I think Mr. Terrific was a pretty nice surprise in the sense as in the amount of time he got as well as the kind of uh, key role he played in the whole scheme of things in this movie. So I think that was quite nice. But all in all, I think all side characters kind of did the job they needed to take the story forward. I don't think there was an injustice in kind of the amount of screen time that they got, whether it be too much or too little. I think again, I go back to Clark's parents. I felt like even though they
Which
weren't on
one?
screen, the earthly parents, so the ones
Earthly.
from Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even though they didn't get a whole lot of time, I think you could kind of see the influence or the impact of being brought up by them had on Clark. And also like the whole family and how that kind of uh relationship that mom, dad, and son had. That was quite nice to see. Yeah, so I think side characters did a good job in this movie, and yeah, it was well written and portrayed as well.
Yeah, for me, I think obviously my favorite one was Crypto. I really like the story, which we'll come to a little while later, which links to what Naeem said. But obviously, because I love dogs, it was perfect to see, and he was a very fun character. And obviously, I was a little skeptical, like, oh, he's gonna be this like superhero dog, so he's just gonna be very obedient, he's gonna help out. But I love the fact, like, at times he just did not care. Right? It was either at the start when he was jumping on Superman when he was injured, or when they were in that interdimensional portal and he was chewing and chasing Mr. Terrific's, how do I put this correctly? Because I can't say Mr. Terrific's balls or electric balls.
No, I
But
mean, you said it, so
Mr. Terrific's devices, right? Or I think
drones,
when
like, was that so hard? Drones, cameras, something. I
Oh,
mean,
he wanted to go with the balls.
he just wanted to say it.
fair, and or the part where Superman's fighting the other Ultraman, and he's in that pet store basically wreaking havoc and eating on his dog food, or and all of that. Eating dog food, not eating his dog food, right? Sorry. Um, and yeah, so all of that put together, Crypto is my favorite sort of side character. I like the robos as well, the Superman helpers, I guess, in the Fortress of Solitude, played by Alan Tudyk, which gave me a very K2SO. Anyone who knows K2SO from Rogue One, Star Wars Rogue One, the droid. So the same guy, right? Alan Tudyk plays both him and the thing. So very similar vibe, very sarcastic, very hilarious kind of vibes. And I think the other one who really kind of stole the show was Jimmy Olsen. I did not peg him to be the ladies' man in that entire Daily Planet atmosphere. I thought everyone would kind of look at Clark and be like, oh, he's such a big guy, like a hunk, like, oh, he looks really cool. But when those two women were talking about Jimmy Olsen, I was like, huh? Really? I love the character. It's really fun. I like the fact that he had Eve's number as, I think, mutant toes or something like that, right? Which
Yeah.
is just hilarious. So I love that dynamic that was playing out there. Mr. Terrific was a great character. I mean, they finally basically had to probably repay the actor for doing him dirty in X-Men First Class, right? So that was a fun thing. And I love that scene when they're in the desert where it's all a one shot where Lois is inside the Mr. Terrific bubble and the song was playing. Yeah. So all in all, that was great. The only side character that I wasn't a huge fan of was, I think, the mechanic or the engineer, the woman with that could do a bunch of stuff. There's this one scene, right, when she's fighting in the Fortress of Solitude, where she does like a handstand and then her legs become her body. And I was like, that's the worst wrestling move ever. You didn't do anything. You just did a handstand, and just to show how cool your body can transform, you just did that. So all in all, yeah, I think more often than not, I liked every side character when they were in the on screen. Hawk Girl especially, I mean, except for her screeching, which was scary as shit. Like, especially when you got the camera right in her face and she's screaming her lungs out. um, but yeah, all fun characters. The next thing I want to talk about is how
Before
grounded.
we move
Yeah,
on, though, I think you how do they connect this? Because you do see one prominent character who has like the small scene in this movie, who's already been like a prominent character in the DC Studios universe now with Peacemaker. So you do
yeah.
see the Peacemaker himself, which is John Cena, pop up for like an interview of
Really? I
sorts.
didn't see him.
Yeah, right. You didn't hear him basically. In Aaron, he's referring to the "you can't see me" thing. So basically, even if he's on screen, he cannot see
Yeah,
himself.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, the like facial expressions are like, what? How could you not have seen it?
That's the exposition that was
No,
required. So
I made the face because you went to be mysterious by saying a certain main character and then you went and said Peacemaker. I was like,
Okay.
oh.
Yeah, what was the purpose of that, right? Okay, but like getting back to this, right? So obviously Peacemaker was a major part of this movie that came out earlier in Suicide Squad. I don't know exactly how much of this universe is connected to that universe, but what is intriguing or interesting to me is so they had this one character which was TDK, which is the
yeah,
detachable, which is also played by Nathan Fillion.
yeah.
And then you got Guy Gardner, which is
Gardner,
also
yeah.
played by Nathan Fillion. So how that universe comes across, if they kind of touch base to that at some point, will be very interesting to see.
I mean,
Uh,
TDK did die on the beach. And I think with Peacemaker, I think they are going to touch upon it in the new season because there's a lot to do with interdimension portal stuff that is there. So that'll be intriguing to see. And yeah, I love that cameo. And there are a few more cameos I think that were there which were quite intriguing. But the one thing I want to talk about and about this entire movie is how we talk about how movies are grounded in reality and all of that, and especially in the superhero franchise and the superhero kind of genre, more movies are trying to be a lot more grounded. And in this, he plays the grounded nature in terms of the war that happens, right? Like a lot of it is taking what's happening in reality and sort of embedding that into what the movie is about. And while part of the movie is about this pet rescue, the next part of the movie is about this war that's happening, this invasion of Boravia into Jahampur.
yeah.
Jahanpur,
Hmm.
right? And so, which is obviously reminiscent of the stuff that we're seeing elsewhere in the real world. And then you have that whole thing of Superman not belonging to the humankind, right? Like the fact that he is considered an alien, which a lot of people use the term alien here in real life as being an immigrant or being someone foreign. So I like that. I didn't feel like it was. Sometimes it can be a little too in your face. Like I'm talking about social causes. I'm talking about this. Like you better pay attention. But here it felt justified. Like Superman would get involved into in invasions by between countries. It is a worldwide impacting thing, right? So it's a geopolitical thing. So he would get impact. He would get involved in that. Um, yeah, the alien thing is something that while it's only 3 years, there is still like humans still need to get used to what Superman is and who he is. And so I like that entire thing. I like the fact that they did have some sort of grounded nature to it, but at the same time, this entire universe is called of gods and monsters, and we did see gods being there, monsters being both kinds. You had that cute little creature which ended up being this massive kaiju, right? Which is what I don't know what was it called, but I don't think it was called anything.
I don't know. I've just been covering the kaiju. So
Yeah, yeah. So this massive monster, and then you have obviously the main monster being Lex Luthor. And dude, what a character. I think I would love to have seen more about that backstory as to why uh, Lex really hates Superman. Right? It
maybe
almost
I will
feels
get that
like,
at some point. Maybe like a special series that comes out, backstory of Lex Luthor.
yeah, perhaps. I mean, I love the interdimensional portal that he has. It's hilarious to see that he's hired this group of monkeys, right? Who are basically what's it? Bad mouthing Superman, basically trolling him online, saying that Man of Steel was the best thing ever, super shit, all of that. So, I mean, it's hilarious that he's got that. I love the fact that he's using his interdimensional jail for basically exes and people who've pissed him off in the past, right? I mean, crazy to have that. And the main thing is, man, I don't think I know a lot of movies try to humanize the villains. I did not feel like Lex had even 1 ounce of redeeming quality. And that's even more prevalent when he shoots Mali, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's quite interesting because it's, I think up until that point, it's a lot more like lighthearted. It's a lot more in sense like, oh, it's very positive and like fun and stuff like that. Like, you don't think things are gonna get like really bad in this universe, and suddenly that whole sequence happens where he gets shot in the head, right? If I'm not wrong, yeah,
Yeah.
and then boom, things have gone dark literally for Mali, and so for the universe too, in the sense that it's like a good mix between, so like obviously in the animated side of things, like I don't exactly know which decade it was that the early or I don't even know if that's the earliest animated version of Superman, but there was this one, I think probably in the 60s or 70s, that had, oh, it's a plane, it's like it's
Yeah,
Superman,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which was a lot more lighthearted, childish, and very fun in how it
Cartoony.
was, yeah,
Yeah.
in how that whole project was perceived. And then eventually in the late 90s or the early 2000s, you had the Superman animated version that I first watched on Cartoon Network. And that was a lot more, while it had all of the positive aspects, but it also had some sort of dark note to it, a lot more darker, especially from a Lex Luthor perspective, like the kind of mind games he tends to play in
Yeah.
that universe. It's pretty nice to watch in terms of like it's meant for the kids, but it's not exactly for the kids only kind of a thing. Like there are darker tones in there, and I feel like this movie is a good mix of both those versions. That's been brought into like live action, and the best thing about the movie in itself was that feeling that it is in its core a comic book movie through and through. Like that's the source material is very much realized on the live action screen here for me. And that's what I really liked about the movie. So yeah, that scene in itself is like it's a very quick scene that happens, but it's like very crucial for the universe, I feel.
Yeah. Fair. I mean, it definitely shows that there are stakes, right? Otherwise, normally you'd see that the guy, the villain, has the gun to his head and it just like doesn't shoot but says, I'll come back later. And so this
Yeah.
basically raises the stakes in the universe, which is great to see. Uh, and one thing that you mentioned, I think in your review, was the soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, for me, I loved John Williams's Superman theme. I loved Hans Zimmer's Man of Steel theme, and I was very intrigued when this movie was announced. I was obviously to hear what the new theme was. I mean, you could say that you're slightly disappointed that they still use the John Williams theme, but I still believe that they used it to good effect. Like I really loved the soundtrack, the background score throughout the movie. While maybe I think it missed or it lacked a little bit of goosebump tingling feelings that you would normally get when talking about something uplifting. But yeah, I still kind of liked it. And James Gunn normally has a good sort of hold on, right? Like the on the music that he puts it in his shows and movies. And
Yeah, I
anything
think
that stood out for you? Huh? Yeah, yeah.
we should more focus on that as well, because from what I know, I think he's made or he's put out Spotify list that each of these characters would listen to, kind of a thing. Like
Oh,
whether
okay.
that's Lois Lane or whether that's Clark Kent, like each one, what kind of songs they listen to have been apparently put up on Spotify. So yeah, I think the music has been a major focus on this. But yeah, I mean, in comparison to what you guys probably experienced in the movie, I was not per se like, some movies that kind of stand out. Like if I think about soundtracks, when I think about Interstellar or Inception and all of that stuff, and granted a lot of these are Hans Zimmer movies,
Yeah.
along with like Star Wars and stuff like that, but like the soundtrack there really stands out to me, kind of a thing. Here in this specific movie, I did not see or feel that as much. I'm not quite sure. Could be the cinema that I was watching didn't do justice to it, but uh,
Yeah.
then again, I don't know
Sure.
about you, Aaron. What did you think?
I mean, I think the comparison is a little bit harsh because I think with Interstellar and stuff, you've got also amazing effects and visuals to go with it. I don't think you have those in this movie, and so it's probably, I don't know, it maybe is just me spitballing, but it could be just the overall impact of those movies kind of capture you rather than this. I think these, as in the songs or the soundtracks in themselves, are quite nice, but yeah, I don't think the visuals kind of add to then the entire experience. So that might be the case, or that may be the standard that you're comparing it to is a little too far-fetched for this movie. But yeah, uh,
Yeah.
in
True.
Even think about superhero movies prior to this, right? Whether that be, say, the Avengers series or even for recently the Batman, for instance. Like some of the things really stand out in terms of when the music comes on, and
I
I feel
get
like
that.
that,
Just I know where you're going with that, but also I think when you hear the Avengers theme or when you hear the Batman tune, there's not a lot going on. It's a very slow thing, whether it is Batman on his bike or whether it was the Avengers when they're standing in New York kind of facing each other, right? There's not like a crazy lot going on here. I think like the background is lost in a lot of the fight sequences as well. So there are points where you hear it, but I felt like one point where I felt like you maybe they could have added a lot more is, when he stops the building from falling onto the car
yeah,
and then
yeah,
he rises from the rubble. I think that could have been a very uplifting sort of soundtrack point, but they didn't use it. This same thing even in Man of Steel, right? It's like the major soundtrack or the biggest point is when he's learning how to fly. Is that everything is quiet and you just see that visual. So I think that's got to play a lot, and I agree with Aaron on that. Like I think in here there are too many things. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of like movement, so you kind of does get lost.
yeah. And
Whereas
yeah.
probably like scenes that were cut did not help. Like the flying scene that happened has probably the strongest soundtrack in there, but maybe it was
sure,
just
Hmm.
yeah, maybe they
Uh,
cut that also out.
uh, yeah. And in terms of anything that stood out to me, I mean, I don't think there was anything that I would be like, anything that kind of stayed with me since having watched the movie. Maybe I think if I could say anything, it would be I think the realism of Crypto in terms of comparing him to a natural dog. I think that was something that they kind of got quite spot on in terms of giving you an. I mean, again, I guess you would have to compare it to a dog you'd find on Earth, but yeah, I mean, that was very well done. I think very lifelike, and so that was quite nice. Besides that, I think I don't know, maybe like how Praddy said, the social issues that they kind of tried to allude to, kind of made it quite relatable in a lot of ways. So yeah. Uh, I
I,
think besides that, I'm not too sure.
I think we spoke about it briefly, but what did you think of the Lois Kent slash Superman sort of relationship that they had?
I think that also was like quite realistic in terms of how you have. people dealing with so many kind of questions and uncertainties in terms of the relationships and stuff like that. And I think both of them kind of portrayed those insecure moments where they kind of were second guessing themselves in terms of the relationship as well as whether they were cut out to be part of that. And so that was quite nice in terms of both actors together. Also, I think they did quite a nice job there. And you are quite encouraged to see how that kind of comes along in whatever the next iteration of the movies and the series or whatever it is that comes along. I think I am quite happy with the characters and the actors that they've chosen. And so, yeah, I think that is it keeps the series in good stead kind of going forward.
Yeah, yeah, fair.
So the
You
chemistry of it, like I agree with, and like it was a pretty strong. I mean, it was a good start in terms of the characters and where they are and the relationship perspective, and also the interview bit that we spoke about earlier gives you a really good view of like that difference between their personal lives versus their professional lives and how that all plays out together and stuff like that. But more than their chemistry, it was Lex and Superman's thing that was going. Like it's that little bit of thing where Superman just rams into Lex's office when
Oh, that
Krypto.
time. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh my God, that scene is, I don't know. I really enjoyed that scene for what it was in terms of um like Lex pretending like he doesn't know anything, but he's kind of like really poking Superman and
He's
kind
playing
of
it to
put
the camera as well, right? Because
exactly
Eve
like
Eve's
recording.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He's like trying to portray Superman to be someone that Superman really isn't, right? Like, but in the sense that, yes, there is that human nature in him, in the sense that he kind of does not know how to control his emotions, especially when it's so personal, kind of a thing. But it's that moment where he kind of passes those night comments and like when he's sipping the coffee and stuff like that, and he just says like, it's like talk and stuff like that, and like, oh fuck, man, he's like really messing with Superman psyche kind of a thing, and I really like that. It's like is it allows me to kind of it reminds me of basically how that relationship is in and the animated version as well, and a lot so
And I
more.
think there was that scene in the animated series as well, right? Where he kind of hovers outside Lex's office and stuff like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So a lot of times where they've come up against each other, and it's like almost at the brink of like you feel like Superman's gonna punch this guy into thin air, but he like really just holds on to himself, not allowing him to cross that
line.
this thing,
Yeah.
line set for himself, kind of a thing. And I really like that about the movie. I love like yeah, I think in a really long time, after a really long time, I've come across a villain that I'm like genuinely looking forward to see in like what next step is going to be like, and especially like considering Batman has a run-in with the same in the animated version. I'm looking forward to, hopefully, if there is what is the movie called,
Oh, the
uh,
world's finest.
World's Finest. Yeah. If
Yeah.
a version of that was ever to come onto screen, it would be quite interesting, especially with the set of characters that are already there, which makes it interesting in terms of who they cast as Batman, because that would be like a good mix or what do you say, spice to add to this drama that
I
exists.
I wonder though. I mean, we all know who crypto is at the end, but like who's who crypto belongs to in the end? But is it more him trying to get crypto back because it's personal and he likes the dog, or it's more like, oh shit, if my cousin comes to know about it, yeah, like like that's not gonna end well.
I think it's more from a perspective of who Superman is, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like again, he's at that point he's more human than Superman, and it just feels too personal, kind of a thing, for Lex to be interfering into. Like, if you really have a problem with me, pick the fight with me as opposed to someone I care about or I love. kind of a thing. So
And I mean, talking about fight sequences, I found it quite refreshing from what the Zack Snyder movies gave us, which was 90% slow motion, 10% actual fighting. And so here, actually, they used it quite well. I like the battle with the kaiju as well as I think the major fight is, of course, with Ultraman, who eventually, I mean, that's the plot twist first, right? The first plot twist, which is Ultraman being a clone of Superman, which I guess explains a lot in terms of how he was able to find the Fortress of Solitude, and how he knew about how he was able to sort of get a one up on Superman, all of that, right? The same sort of powers, but
it, it's pretty interesting how some of these things are like you wouldn't think was the right mix for the first movie in itself. Like
yeah,
I overkill in a lot of ways, and yet somehow he's managed to make it work without it seeming too much at any point.
because
Like
like you would have thought like a bizarro Superman or whatever would have been overkill, like how Doomsday was overkill in Batman versus
that,
Superman, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like it's just too much. Like why are you adding way too much, right? But yeah, fair enough. I didn't really, but also at the end, I didn't feel like the stakes were too high. I knew that Superman obviously wins that battle, right? So yeah, I don't know however close he got to that black hole, which was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
So
think the fact that also that even though there were probably like multiple opponents, if you want to call them that, there wasn't like someone that was like overpowering or too overkill in that sense. I think it was like kind of like if you left them one on one, it would probably be in a fair fight on both sides. So it wasn't overly dramatized or like, oh, what's going to happen next, in the sense where like you kind of know the result, but you would be like, how is this whole thing going to play out? So I think that kind of kept it more grounded. So that was another, what would you call it? Another good addition to the movie, or if you want to say it was good that it was left out in terms of having someone that was too overpowered and stuff like that.
yeah, because I think the major threat still remained Lex rather than anything else. Like the
Yeah.
fact that he decided to happily destroy Metropolis with that Earth opening this thing. Now, okay, speaking of that, obviously Superman had a choice to make, which is
I,
save Metropolis or save the world in that way, or help Jahanpur from the invasion of Barabia, right?
yeah.
Uh, I mean, if I were the kid, would I have felt a bit shortchanged that I got the Justice Gang instead of Superman, just given that I was calling out for his name repeatedly? And I'm sure that he had no clue, the kid had no clue that there was an Earth ending event on the other side of the world. Um, I don't know. Like, that's an interesting thing. I don't think it's going to play out, and it just seemed like everyone was happy because everything went their way. But it's an
So
intriguing.
again, like I think, see, there's somewhat a subtle context to that in the sense that I think to that point, it's only Superman that's actually interfered and helped them, which is why they're
Hmm.
looking out for Superman, right? Had any of these Justice Gang members
This
previously,
gang.
yeah,
Gang.
like I mean, this gang, like whatever you want to call it, right? Like,
Yeah.
had they previously interfered as well, which they didn't, because I'm guessing they were a lot more smarter about what governmental, like government related issues they kind of need to stay away from, to not fall into hot water, kind of a thing. They kind of did until that point where it became inherently clear that they needed to make some really difficult choices. And I also like the fact that it's like Superman's put into that position of having to choose between one or the other, because it's like he can't always be at every place. And I like that subtle hint in terms of no matter how strong Superman is, at some point he has to rely on other people, which will eventually lead on to like much bigger things. Like it will not just be a gang anymore, kind of a thing.
It'll
So
be a league.
league per
Yeah.
se. So yeah, like I like those tidbits kind of spread around or scattered around in the movie to hint at what is to come eventually. Uh, when you see Superman kind of take the mantle up in its whole
Because
supremacy
that
of
that's something your favorite superhero failed, right? Uh, in the Dark Knight, where he had the choice, ended up losing one.
ah yes he
Huh.
did. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So obviously he then never partnered with anyone later on also, but oh no, he kind of did in Rises with Catwoman. But yeah. I mean, yeah, it couldn't
Learn
be
from mistakes.
learn from his mistakes. So fair. I think that was and I I think it's fair to kind of say that he chose the right thing to do, right? Like the world
Absolutely.
ending is a bigger
Yeah. Like I
problem.
mean, if
Yeah, he
technically
could
the world
always
ends,
also then go back and free Jahanpur or whatever it
Well,
is.
I mean, couldn't have saved those kids. They would have been dead by then. But yes, I mean,
he did
I
like
mean,
it's not like
hmm,
he abandoned them completely, right? He made sure there was
yeah,
a
yeah.
contingency in place, kind of a thing. He obviously, while it could have been either that saved Jahanpur, it was only him that could have ideally saved the world-ending event in a lot of ways. And I guess that's the difficult choice you have to make, wherein
yeah, others you would
No,
have been saving Jahanpur for like 10 minutes.
10 minutes exactly, like it's done, and then like thank you
technically,
so much, gone, Khalas.
tech, technically though, wasn't Mr. Terrific the one who saved the world?
Absolutely, yeah. But like I think without Superman there to interfere with the surrounding players in play,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been possible for Terrific to take hold
Yeah,
of all.
yeah. I mean, he kept them occupied to give Mr. Terrific the time to do whatever he did. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
True, true. All
Play
right,
with it.
so play with the ball. Yeah. I like the fact. The other one that was intriguing was the Boravia, whatever, president, prime minister, who I
Oh,
thought was
guys, is I don't know if you guys have watched 2012 or not, the world-ending movie or
mhm,
whatever. The
20,
the
it's
my
2012,
John
right? Not,
Cusack.
yeah, John Cusack, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that movie, there's this Russian oligarch or something who's
Okay.
basically this guy is, I think, that very same person who's played that character. Like, oh wow, like I didn't
Mm.
like last time he was there, he was trying to save his two kids and then dies, falls off before that.
Oh, okay. I kind of do know the cat. I can't picture him, but I know what you're talking about. The guy you're
The
talking
Yeah,
guy
about.
who falls off the ark.
Yeah.
yes. I
Yes.
mean, falls off trying to board the ark
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
But did you
He
guys
was
think?
this.
Uh, but did you guys think that he was Clayface? Because I thought
yeah, initially, so I
when he
expected
went,
full.
especially when he went into that room, he's like, "Leave me alone
Yeah,
and let me." I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, he's gonna turn into Clayface," and that's the tie-in.
Clayface, if I'm not wrong, is in production or is
Yeah.
expected to come out soon or something like that. So yeah, my first like my thought process was exactly the same. I was like, oh, this is probably Clayface. I think I even whispered to Asmin saying, I think this is Clayface kind of a thing, and then it
Because he
didn't.
he he didn't seem very human. The way he was talking felt very weird. He felt very eccentric. So I was like, oh, that could just be Clayface. And it's very likely that it could be. So I was maybe slightly disappointed that it wasn't, but I mean, he met his end in incredible fashion. He fell off, right? The hawk girl drops him from a height, right?
There's a lot of presidents happen to have eccentric uh, speech patterns or
Uh-huh. Okay. Let's
Where do
not
you
get.
live, Naeem?
Nowhere has got a president or prime minister. Um, no, it does.
exactly.
Hmm.
Kind of. Yeah.
It does technically,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get to the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is the biggest plot twist in the movie, which is Superman's Kryptonian parents being like, Son, go to Earth, make some money, fucking bitches.
Yeah, that was a twist I did not see coming, to be honest. I kept thinking Lex is really kind of like
So
is definitely
did you think that it was Lex who manipulated it? Did
yeah,
you think that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Considering who Lex tends to be, I really thought that was it. Like that's the play here, kind of a thing. The fact that it didn't seem to be that, and it was originally that was the clip that was sent, was quite interesting to say the least. In the sense that I was like, wow, like had he seen that to begin with, what would have been the repercussions of that? Like
One
insane.
bad day.
Yeah. It's a good thing
um.
whoever that the clip just cut off in that first half.
Yeah, it was so fortunate that it got damaged that way. Thank God for what the asteroid or whatever that hit it and
Yeah.
damaged it on his way to Earth. But yeah, I mean, what a story, man! What a plot twist. I think we've seen obviously changes in so for people who watch the Batman, there Bruce Wayne is not sorry Thomas Wayne is not seen as this very good guy, right? He's obviously had very shady political connections and dealings. Right, that's what was there, right? I believe in the Batman itself, where they have those orphanage, or where that orphanage is, or I think where Batman goes with Gordon inside this really dingy looking place, and there's a lot of it where I think it's seen that he's not this perfect guy. I think even in the Joker movie, Thomas Wayne was seen as this very like I mean not a great guy essentially, right? Who's had this affair and he's got this secret side to him. So I'm not surprised that they decided to do that here, but my God, man, that twist was a twist and a half. I especially the fact that I think when I watched it, I was like, Lexus played around with the subtitles of it. I mean, whatever they said probably said it, but what it actually meant is something that Lexus messed around with. And when the Pentagon said the same thing, I was like, anyway, Lexus got them in his pocket. So obviously they're just listening to what Lex said. But when it was Mr. Terrific and the robos themselves who kind of vouched for the validity and they validated that entire conversation, it was like, oh wow, okay. But okay, I mean, also wild casting in terms to get Bradley Cooper and that woman from Westworld to be the parents. Um, the woman looks more kryptonite, so I mean, definitely look like she fits into that role. But man, Bradley Cooper was a. I didn't think I never heard of his casting, so that was a quite a hidden role, I suppose. And good to see him there. I've actually now heard that he was up for the Lex Luthor role as well, which I'm glad they didn't go with. But yeah, um,
Thank God for
thank God for that. But yeah, that was the biggest plot twist. But I want to ask you guys. So if you were humans and you've seen Superman now save your city for 3 years, something like this, do you think the outcry and the sort of hatred was justified on Superman from the humans? Given that you know this guy to be the savior, you know him to be the good guy, like suddenly,
I don't know, man. Like I think public opinion can be quite swayed quite easily these days, especially if you have the right people at the right places. Media being one of the key factors, kind of a thing. It's quite of it's very much possible that opinions can change at lightning speed these days. It's especially with cancel culture at large. So any when it comes to these things,
please
I think
don't
any
cancel us.
yeah, but like I think to that point he's largely played along with what works for the government in a lot of ways, and which is why he's not been portrayed in a negative manner whatsoever. And then eventually he steps over this line where he's interfering with government matters and state related concerns and stuff like that, where they don't want him to be intervening or interfering unless he's been asked to. And then that quickly impacts him in the sense that they take control of how he's being portrayed, especially because they think public opinion would be key in terms of how he's managed and the kind of whether they want to give him free reign and all of that stuff. Like there's a lot more of that.
Because they obviously have not heard any of the recording, right? They don't know what Jorel and Kara. So what's his mom? Kara, something. Right.
Correct.
So they do. Sorry.
They do.
No, but no, I'm saying before they don't know what the actual recording ever was, right? So they now Lex has given them the full recording, and that's when they get a bit scared. I think maybe from a human standpoint, they're like, this guy's just doing everything right, so that we end up on we end up liking and worshiping him. And when things are like when we take things a little lightly, that's when things are gonna turn. Like he's gonna suddenly, you know, become this bad guy, steal our money, steal our women, basically breed Kryptonians in Earth, right? So I guess maybe that is justified.
I don't know if that is the thought process there, but they are certainly worried about their own existence. And that is the reason why I think you start hearing a lot of murmur about him being an alien and all of that stuff. And I feel like the fact that you feel like he is the strongest being in there in present in Earth, and there's no counter against that sort of freak of nature or whatever. I think that puts them in a place where they don't want to be, in the sense that tomorrow if something goes wrong, they don't have Batman yet to kind of use kryptonite.
Batman, yet he's still being born there. Like, oh, poor
He's
guy.
there, but he's just not in the light so
Yeah.
far. He's operating in the shadows per se.
Interesting. And I guess, I mean, talking about Alien and all that, I really liked his monologue at the end where he says that, he makes mistakes, but that's what makes him human and, all of that, which is very quintessential Superman, right? That's what he is. That's what the movie is also trying to show, which is, right, this is not the perfect movie by any means necessary, like by any means. Like this movie does have flaws, and maybe that's what Superman's all about, right? Like no matter how godlike he is and that nothing can take him down, he still has his flaws, and that's what makes him human. That's not an alien trait. Otherwise, everyone else would be perfect.
I'm guessing, yeah, that's what sums it up basically.
And
Uh,
let's end this by I want to ask you guys, like, where do you now see, now that you watch Superman, right? What are you kind of expecting now from this DC movie? Knowing what, I mean, we've got the end credits, which talks about a certain character, right? So, what are you expecting now out of that? What are you
but can you
hoping to
remind me of
see?
who that certain character is? Because I've forgotten in the past 3 weeks.
Supergirl?
Okay, that okay.
This show,
Not,
I'm like, they
and
talk about, I'm like, who are they talking about? I was like, okay.
Oh,
Mm.
okay.
yeah.
Like you see her basically, literally, like talking
Yeah, yeah.
about
No,
her.
I mean, not talking about, but they show her. Sorry. I mean, yeah, my bad. Like, so
Was
the
that
one,
after credits? Was it like the
no, no,
first
no, it was just the ending, I think, right?
thing? Yeah, yeah. So I guess, yeah, I think that's where the confusion stemmed from. But very interesting in couple minutes that you see her, because she's very different to anything that I've been exposed to when it comes to Supergirl before this, like prior to this. And also, I I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Supergirl is supposed to be like the elder sister or the elder cousin or whatever in the this thing, and on her way.
I, I guess, I
Uh,
mean, the only thing I know about Supergirl is that she was alive and not a baby when Krypton
she
finally.
Yeah,
witnesses the.
she is the elder cousin, but I think wherever her pod went kind of slowed down her aging, and so yeah, she's still girl.
So
She's
Mm.
yeah,
girl, not
Super
Superwoman.
girl. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we see her in this very chaotic sort of time in her life, right? Like
Yeah,
I love the fact that crypto is hers because that explains so much. How
about
does
his
that?
But, but
Yeah.
I think it's always been the case. Okay, maybe here they show her like this party animal kind of thing, but I think in the comics as well as in the animated series and stuff, she is very childlike or
Hmm.
teenage-ish
yeah,
kind of character that she has, and not as mature. And I think Superman or Clark is meant to be the more grounded and mature one in terms of the two. So yeah, I think it kind of still plays true to what the original portrayal of the character was. The only, I think, at least I haven't come across the whole thing where she goes from planet to planet for the next buzz. So that was
yeah.
something different.
Neither have I. So this is the first time I'm being like I'm coming across this material per se, which makes it very interesting because there's that. I think even in that you kind of had the human tendency of kind of using alcohol as a way to kind of forget a lot of
Yeah.
things.
What
That's where
will
she,
be interesting to find out, Pradi, going back to your question, is what kind of drives her to that? Did she also get the same message and she's like, no, I don't wanna.
yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
Or she
Like
or
what could have
she's
been her thought process?
she's effing she's effing those bitches in those planets and stealing money.
Maybe she's like, challenge accepted, and like, I'll not do one planet, it'll be multiple or something.
Yeah.
I'll leave this for Cal.
The
Yeah,
co-
leave this for the kiddo.
Yeah,
yeah.
little brother.
Kal-El is gets Earth. I get the rest of the but she goes to what? Only the red
Right.
sun planets, right? Because
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where
because
she
that's the
feels.
only way she's going to get the buzz.
Yeah. The buzz in what way? I have no clue, but in every way.
we will
In
find out soon.
every which way. But yeah, it's intriguing whether she's just going there to chill and relax and do a bunch of things that her parents told her to do, or is she going there to forget the atrocities that she witnessed back in Krypton, right? Like, so I'd be intrigued. I mean, I probably want to see an origin story for that. And maybe they've saved the origin story for her because we've not really seen it in live action movies, right? Supergirls.
Yeah.
Yet.
So that'll be intriguing to see how she, how what goes around there. And now that she's got crypto as well, I wonder whether what we see of Supergirl is after her movie and she comes to collect crypto, or is it taking crypto and then it's going to lead to her movie? So quite intrigued by it, and I like the world that it's built. I like the world that James Gunn has built, whether with the Justice Gang, how that's going to go with Maxwell Lord. Then you have Peacemaker, where they obviously have that angle to play Supergirl, Superman, and
We've
and
got
they've obviously got
coming out as well. So
Green
that
Lantern Corps. Yeah. So a lot of things that are happening, and I like the fact. I mean, we've already seen the Marvel thing where it's like you see one movie at a time, and then that leads to the Justice League being built. I'm hoping that it's something different right now. I feel like I loved how the animated movies did it, which was
yeah,
Justice
the
League War.
two-part series,
No, oh, you're
like
talking about the TV show, right?
the invasion. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's there. They also came out with the Justice League War movie,
yeah,
where it was the big guy comes as the villain. What's his name? Darkseid comes as the villain, and that's the first time that they meet. So I'm intrigued to see how this goes. Again, I don't keep my hopes up, but because, like you said, this could just be a false start, and then again we have a reboot of another reboot and of another reboot, right? So, but it's a good start. I really love the good thing is that I like the other things that James Gunn has done in the DC universe, which is
so far.
Peacemakers so far, Peacemakers, Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos, and so in that way, I feel like things are falling into place. And I guess things have fallen into place to end this episode as well. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's about it for our review of the Superman movie. I know we were probably a little bit late, but better late than never. we've had some other issues as well as to why this is late, but finally we got there. So do let us know what eh, to everyone who's been listening to this podcast or watching it, let us know down in the comment section what you thought of Superman, where you see the DC universe going from here. And yeah, we'll love to hear as to what other movies you think we should be reviewing next. But I guess that's about it from the Three Body Narrative. We are your hosts, Prati, Aaron, and Naeem, and we'll catch you all on the next episode. See you. Oh, voice crack.